Standing side by side, the families of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and Trayvon Martin marched down Pennsylvania Avenue to the U.S. Capitol calling for justice.
But the flare-up led to an hours-long standoff between heavily armed police and demonstrators. Many cleared out as the night devolved into a now familiar scene of tear gas, smoke bombs, rubber bullets, riots, and looting.
Some of the biggest issues have to do with Texans' interaction with the police.
Consider the climate to be very risky.
Why so?
National politics. And so we see attacks from all angles across the country. We know that there'll be a lot of bills are about officer retirement, and we're focused on that and ready for that.
I get very emotional about this because, we have more members and more officers in the state of Texas killed per year than anywhere else. And we felt at Cleat that if you're going to make the ultimate sacrifice to serve the citizens and protect them in the state of Texas, then the state of Texas, the least they can do is step up and make sure your survivors are cared for after you're gone and can no longer do it. It's with great pride that we ramrodded and we pushed it through, and we got the death benefits doubled for all the survivors in the state of Texas.
Body cameras are going to pass, go to the governor's desk. We were opposed all the way through to anything that didn't allow a redaction of personal conversations that weren't related to a stop. Because officers have to communicate personally, privately. They have all kinds of things happening to them on the shift. And if it's not in the public's interest, then we didn't want that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Chris Jones. And I'm here today representing the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas, Cleat. Cleat represents the men and women that go to work every day in this state and puts their lives on the line to protect the interests of every citizen in this state. And they are also the men and women that will put these body cameras on. I want to say...
Let me interrupt you for a moment. Are you against the concept, or?
No, I've got some specific issues. I'm not against the concept of body cameras.
The bill's in progress.
I understand that. We have some concerns. We do have rights, and we don't forego our constitutional rights of privacy and those issues just because we put the badge and gun on every day.
People across the state in law enforcement have finally just washed their hands. And it's that we're going to have body cameras. There's just nothing in the statute we're going to be able to impact. We might as well just go ahead and let them do what they want to do. We knew in the climate that there'd be no way to have a veto from the governor's office because they believed in cameras. We believed that once it got out of the Senate, that the House would be volatile and it'd be hard to change it there. So the hardest task was to change it right there on the Senate floor. And that's what we did and were able to do.
Chair now recognizes Senator West on committee substitute for Senate Bill 158 to suspend the regular order of business.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. At this time, I move to suspend the Senate regular order of business, take up and consider Senate Bill 158. Members, this is the body camera bill that I have been worrying each and every one of you about, talking to you about the issues that you have. This particular bill, Mr. President, represents a collaboration between local law enforcement, both in rural and urban and suburban counties, civil rights groups, participation by your office and the governor's office in a group that has been working on a consensus bill. So that's what this represents. As of yesterday afternoon, I also now have one of the groups that testified against the bill, Cleat, and they will be supportive of the bill once an amendment goes on, and Senator Menendez has the amendment that he'll be offering for the bill.
The day before the hearing, myself, Charlie Wilkerson, and Chris Jones were walking through here, and we ran into Senator West. And he asked, because we were the only major police group in the state of Texas in opposition to his bill. And he asked what he could do to remove our opposition, and we told him very, very simply, put this amendment on to protect our members' rights to not have everything they do while they're on duty being subject to open records requests.
At the end of the day, it boiled down, the opposition that I heard was the concern from some folks in law enforcement that there could be the inadvertent time where the camera was left on when they got home and when they were with their family and they're spending time, private time with their spouse and their kids. And so this amendment seeks to address that issue. And other than that, I want to say that Senator West, you took a great deal of effort to address a lot of the concerns. And so I want to just briefly say what this amendment does. It would simply clarify that a recording that's not subject to release under the Freedom of Information request, if the recording was not required to be made in the first place under a policy or law, and if the recording does not relate to its law enforcement purpose. It's a very simple amendment, and it's what the one law enforcement agency that represents many of our police men and women across the state felt that they had a concern with, just because they didn't want to have something dragged out there with a family conversation or a spouse or a child inadvertently stored on some cloud somewhere and then make it difficult. And I believe it is acceptable to the author.
It is acceptable.
We were definitely pleased with the outcome of the body camera bill that ultimately passed. Not only were we able to protect the privacy of officers when it comes to open records requests, but an officer can now view that footage prior to making a statement if there is a complaint filed against him or an internal affairs investigation.
Open carry has been a big issue this session. Where does Cleat stand on open carry at this time?
My problem with that was I didn't need an officer out there dealing with someone who was carrying a weapon, trying to worry about whether or not he could ask them, if he thought it was necessary, whether they had a concealed handgun carry license. Whether he was having to make in a very short time on the street, in the dark, whether he had enough probable cause to ask this person a simple question, do you have a license?
The book I've got underneath my desk has got every member of Cleat. There's 20,000 of them. I got their membership under my desk, and I could read it for the next couple of hours. Then I could go to the municipal police organization and their members. Then I could move over to the Houston Police Officers Union, or I could go up to the Dallas. So I could spend to about midnight letting y'all know how serious I am about this and how I am really, honestly fearful for our police officers and consequently fearful for our constituents.
We were told over and over with the authors of the bill, you can't get it off. We were told that the NRA, the gun lobby, all those folks were opposed to us. Those people had been our friends in the past. So we didn't waver, and we got a lucky break when the people offering the amendments overstepped. And in any kind of game, whether it's football or whether it's politics, there's going to be somebody who's going to cough up the football if they overreach.
It does not change that circumstance.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's just get a little more simpler. Why in the world do you think all the police officers are opposed to your amendment if, in fact, it doesn't detrimentally affect them?
I don't know if that's the case. I don't think.
Well, take my word for it. I work in criminal justice with law enforcement each and every day.
Well,
they say they can't do their job in protecting the public and the police officers if you don't allow them to approach people and say, do you have a right to have your gun?
Do you know who Cleat is?
Do I know what Cleat is?
Yes. Yeah,
of course I know what Cleat.
Well, it's my understanding they are
in officers of Texas.
It's my understanding they're in support of the amendment. I do not take the premise that the police are not in support of this amendment.
And in the exchange, an unusual moment happened. Huffine said that the Combined Law Enforcement Association supported his amendment. Minutes later, Cleat tweeted out that, in fact, they did not support it. Whitmire found out and brought it to Huffine's attention.
And that was the opening we needed to take the whole thing down. I don't believe Cleat's Twitter account had ever went viral before that day.
And you know what? Let me ask you another thing, because I respect you so much. Who told you that Cleat, Senator, who told you that Cleat supported your amendment? And would it matter to you significantly if, in fact, they're opposed to it? Because, you know, now we're getting to the credibility of our discussion, and I like you and respect you, but you surely were misinformed when Cleat said that they supported it. I know Senator West didn't tell you that. Cleat is opposed to your amendment, Senator. Would you like to hear from them and not use them as a source? They're very respectable combined law enforcement officers of Texas. Would you like to know that they're opposed to your amendment?
Well, it was representatives of Cleat. It was presented to me that are in agreement with the amendment.
Well, I just saw documentation, and I'll be glad to forward it to you, that Cleat, as an organization representing thousands of police officers, multiple police agencies are opposed to your amendment. And I think if that mattered to you 10 minutes ago, it should be significant now, should it not be?
I didn't say that it mattered that much. What matters is that we don't violate our citizens of Texas rights. And I still don't think you really understand the amendment, Dean.
Charlie, what happened?
I just went up to the Senate floor and I told Senator Huffines to quit using your name in the amendment, that we are not in support of any amendment that limits the authority and jurisdiction of any officer any time. And we had a nice discussion, and he told me he would fix the problem and make a retraction on the floor of the Senate.
And this quick statement, members, earlier in this debate today on this amendment, I represented that Cleat supports this amendment. And a note was passed to me in the heat of the debate, and that's the note I read to make that statement. And while the Senate was in recess, I had a meeting with Cleat leadership, and they assured me that Cleat does not support the amendment, and they, of course, don't support the open carry legislation either. I apologize for this misrepresentation, even though I sincerely, respectfully disagree with their position.
As we heard, open carry is moving forward, minus an amendment those with the combined law enforcement associations of Texas are against.
By the hard work of Charlie, Chris, and Melinda, and our local partners from our local agencies that came and helped us here, we were able to protect our members.
Many bad ideas were proposed, and the fact that they're not coming to fruition so far has been due to the hard work of our lobby team and folks and legislators that listen to their local law enforcement officers back home. We had a legislative session we're very proud of. Our members are very proud of it. The rank and file are very proud. At the same time, the campaign cycle is just gearing up now. So we're looking at the primary campaigns. We're looking at our PAC dollars, and we're planning to be engaged fully to make sure that the next legislative session that the folks have a chance to interact with us again, that they know our issues, and if they're coming back down here, they know we're going to be waiting.